I would be very happy if you subscribed to the channel, liked and wrote a comment rating this manga on a scale from 1 to 10. Your opinion is very important to me. This will help me better understand what my audience is interested in, because you are really important to me.
In the period of our time, something very strange has appeared. People did not understand what was happening. They tried to escape from it. A black fog enveloped the whole world. Even from space, you could see how the globe was covered with blackness. It was the revival of evil that had been hiding and accumulating strength for hundreds of years. In other words, the deities have come to our world again. A girl in a luxurious dress was standing at the window. She watched the moon in the dark night sky. The boy did the same. Only now he was watching everything from a height. He was sitting on the roof. 10 years ago, briefly, he saw a man who became his hero for the rest of his life. And then he decided which path he would choose. Monsters appeared in the world, which were told about in ancient myths. People couldn't fight them. They were afraid, fell to the ground and screamed. Above the moon, towering high in the sky, stands a god who is constantly watching our planet. He has 3 pairs of golden wings and hair the color of which is whiter than the purest snow. At the same time, someone was fighting monsters. Feet stood in front of dangerous creatures with unimaginable confidence. A girl holding a staff in her hand, and a guy whose body is almost completely hidden by a dark cloak. The girl was advancing to attack the monsters. In this world that belongs to humans, all mysticism must be eliminated. The girl, whose weapon was the staff she held before the attack, successfully coped with her task. Monsters with this persistence cannot cope. But nevertheless, the cities continued to exist. In one of the nooks and crannies stood an adult man and a young man with a blindfold over his eyes. The man said that in fact he was very jealous of the guy. He was able to awaken the forbidden ruins at such a young age. He himself worked as a night watchman for many years. Literally everyone was waiting for their awakening. He was sorry that he was now over 40 and had lost all prospects for his development. He walked closer to the guy, placing his foot very close to his, and put his big hand on the young man's shoulder. He advised not to waste your talent for nothing. Wouldn't it be better to use your power to protect others? But what if he only wanted to use his power to protect his family? The man walked around him and walked on without stopping. But he would accept any choice this boy made. The young man continued to stand, leaning on his cane. But his swordsmanship showed great promise, and what choice he makes will become an example for all mankind. He is the one who will lead all people. Everyone wants to protect their little home. For that blindfolded guy, it was valuable to protect his brother and mother, with whom he always laughed merrily at dinner. He had a purpose: protect your family. That militant girl with a staff of the last strength stood on her feet. Her body was covered with multiple scratches and abrasions. She herself held onto her stomach, closing the wound, from which blood was still pouring. But those who were supposed to help her were already defeated, and she courageously defended them, because she had a goal: protect teammates. Monsters do not spare anything. They will not be able to attack the school. Many will be confused, but there will be those who will be ready to draw the sword from its scabbard. They have a purpose: protect your classmates. And these tens of millions of small families, they all united and formed the Night Watch. Its purpose is protection. The man called out, "Forbidden Ruin, Shining Moon." The girl with the staff shouted, "Forbidden Ruin, Dance of the Phoenix." Another, third person, spoke, "The Forbidden Ruin, the Hand of the God of Death." They were in the room. Was he looking for them? Agent Seraphim. That's right, it was him. The man had an agreement. He will join the Night Watch for exactly 10 years. Exactly 10 years later, he will be gone. But did they know the duties of the Night Watch? Death or life? Death to protect the planet. The rain poured like a bucket. Far away in the clouds, lightning flashed without ceasing. Nature was raging. The waves were constantly moving in one direction, then in the other. But sooner or later they met a figure on their way. It was a blue-skinned man, bare to the waist, with long hair and a beard. He held a trident in his hand and asked the mortal standing in front of him if he knew who he was standing in front of.
I would be very happy if you subscribed to the channel, liked and wrote a comment rating this manga on a scale from 1 to 10. Your opinion is very important to me. This will help me better understand what my audience is interested in, because you are really important to me.
God stood a young man. Behind him he saw a road laid right between the waves, which diverged in different directions. God code 009, Poseidon. The guy knew about it and told this to Poseidon, the god of the seas. Page 10. This infuriated God. His brows furrowed. His eyes flashed with lightning. He shouted that the guy was from the most arrogant country. In the behavior of the guy, he did not see any respect for the gods. Is it possible to treat them, the gods, like that? Poseidon has already raised the trident to the guy's head. On one of the glass blades is a drop of rainwater. Did he really think that his mortal body would withstand the onslaught of him, Poseidon himself? But the young man coolly said that more than God, rising farther and farther into the sky, shouted, did they really want to stop him with this ridiculous power? God code 018 is Loki. The man leaned back against the wall. He He was breathing heavily, trying to catch his breath. Killing a god has not yet been possible. Feeling something in the inside pocket of his vest, he began to get it out. Life or death. Death to protect the planet. He took out the medallion. It featured a white skull on a black background. He shouted to the heroes who fell in the struggle for humanity that comes to them. He was just about to get up when he was seized by the hand in which he held the medallion. This left him bewildered. The man who grabbed the man's hand was a black-haired guy in a red cloak. He, too, knew that the situation seemed to have reached a critical stage. Behind him stood men and women, all those who were ready to stand up for their country and those who were not afraid, who were ready to resist the gods. And they were not a couple of people, there was a whole crowd of them. The black-haired boy was at the head of them. He drew his sword from its scabbard and prepared for battle. He forbade the gods on this planet. Their planet. It was pouring rain. Lightning went like cobwebs across the sky. There was a building at the very top of a sheer cliff. The guy's legs with each step confidently lifted him higher and higher. There seemed to be an innumerable number of steps, but the young man eventually ended up at the gates of a majestic building that looked like a castle. He appeared there every time he fell asleep. The guy sighed. Every fucking 5 years. He dreams about this fucking psychiatric hospital every day. He pushed back one of the gate doors. He confidently walked across the territory, and he always felt that this destroyed psychiatric hospital was calling him. But inexplicably he was not allowed to go there, inside. And so it is in every dream. He went to the big high doors and began to loudly pound on them, shouting that it was him again, and that they would finally open it for him. In this illogical dream, any of his actions do not make any sense. All he can do is knock on these gates throughout the whole dream. Knock on the gate, knock on the gate, knock on the gate. The guy gradually returned from the realm of Morpheus to reality. From behind the door, his brother called him because dinner was already ready. He sat up in bed and replied that he would now go downstairs and eat. Oh, again. Throughout the whole dream, he knocked on this gate. It exhausted him so much. From that day on, he became not only mentally ill, but also blind. The guy got out of bed and put on a bandage over his eyes, tie it at the back of his head. The guy groped his way to the door and also groped, holding onto the walls, descending the stairs. In other words, he began to see the world differently. He is in gray, like a mother finishing dinner, like a brother shouting to their dog that he will not give him anything. His mother looked up the stairs as soon as she heard footsteps approaching. She said that the doctor was waiting for him for an examination, waiting for him in his room. The brother pointed his finger in that direction, holding the dog in his other hand, and he needed to come soon. But he himself understood this very well. In a room specially designated for this, a doctor was sitting at the table. The boy sat down on the chair next to him. He started asking questions. He checked the information he had. Is Lin Kai his name? Is he 17 years old? All of this was true. After that, the doctor asked if his patient could tell him more about the accident 10 years ago, which led him to mental disorders and blindness 10 years ago. Of course he could tell. Yes, 10 years ago. That night he was looking at the moon, and I saw an angel. He stood alone, shrouded in a golden glow. Angel with 6 golden wings. The guy thoroughly remembered what this creature looked like. It was clear from the doctor that he treated these words with skepticism. He asked about the flaming angel. The boy only confirmed it. From that day on, his eyes never opened again. Everything was clear to the man. He was already bringing the pen to the sheet in order to put a tick in the field of the mentally ill. But Lin Kai spoke again. But he, of course, understood that it was all just his imagination. The doctor was confused and therefore asked again. The guy explained that after he saw the angel, he fell from the ledge and hit his head below, damaged the optic nerves and therefore went blind. Now the doctor understood that, and now, without the slightest hesitation, he put a plus next to the field of a normal psychiatric state. The doctor closed the guy's medical record. His medical history was recorded and there was nothing wrong with it. The doctor really hoped that Lin Kai would continue to get used to his blindness and continue to live well, despite any difficulty. The guy thanked the doctor and waved his hand to him. It was already quite dark. The lights were burning in the buildings. It was dinner time. They gathered at the table with the whole family. Lin Kai's brother asked if his eyes were gone. The guy answered that yes, he had already seen something. But he almost did not feel the light. And in general, Xiao Kai did not have to worry about the guy's eyesight. Everything was fine. Mom said that they would just continue to be patient. Someday everything will return to normal. Until then, they would not torture themselves and Lin Kai himself with questions about his eyesight. The guy was quite happy with it. Now the woman was translating the subject. They have already dealt with the documents for transferring to another school, but is he really sure? Was he well thought out? But the guy finally decided everything. He said his eyes would be back to normal soon, so he should be back on the starting line by now, like his peers. He had to start now if he wanted to pass the university entrance exams. The mother looked at him with tenderness. Yes, even if he does not pass the exams, everything will be in order. They won't stop loving him because of it. After all, they are his family. and even his little brother promised him that he would also take care of him. Already in his room, the guy was standing, leaning on the table. He lied. His vision won't return to normal. He still couldn't even hug them. Not at all. In desperation, the boy clenched his red blindfold in his fist. The boy frowned and clenched his teeth, a few drops of sweat rolling down his face from zeal. No matter how hard Lin Kai tried, he could not open his eyes. After this unsuccessful attempt, he exhaled, his breath hitched, with obvious dissatisfaction. He abruptly tied the bandage back over his eyes. But he didn't lie either. Even with his eyes closed, he could see everything around him. Since 5 years ago, Lin Kai's eyes had undergone some changes to allow him to perceive his surroundings. At first, he could only see a few centimeters in front of him, but as time went on, he felt further and further away. Everything became clearer and clearer. Now, his ability had reached a radius of 10 meters. The boy held out his hand in front of him. If a person can only see 10 meters, he is still considered blind. But for him, those 10 meters meant everything. He looked into, for him, the unknown, but there was the sky, there was the moon, due to which he lost his sight 10 years ago. I wonder if this god with 6 golden wings is still looking at Lin Kai. After standing at the window a little more, the guy decided to go to bed early. He was going to knock on that gate again. At this time, on a night street behind a cracked pillar, a monster lurked, which also broke the same pillar. Down the street, some poles fell down. 3 people deftly dodged a chest of stones and concrete that flew at them. One of them shouted for the monsters to stop. The other 2 were sent to intercept through the gateway. At the same time, one of them contacted Old Man Zhao. Zhao stood and smoked at that time. He accepted and already knew what he would need to do. He stood under a sign that forbade passage. All 3 signs were in place. Stretching out his hand, he summoned the forbidden ruin. Touching the ground with it, he created a red circle around him, shouted forward, and 3 red pillars of magic soared into the sky. Those red pillars of magic were quite large, so much so that they easily captured 2 monsters. One of them was about to use magic, but a voice came from behind them. They might not even try. The man removed the hood of his red cloak from his head. It turned out to be a girl. She said that the monsters would not get out of this formation, and she herself, with her assistants, began the cleaning operation. The school was overflowing with people. Lin Kai carefully walked towards the court with the help of his cane. He walked past 2 girls who immediately noticed him. One even told her friend just to see how handsome he is. Even though it was the guy's first day in high school, he was ready for anything. Already in class, the teacher asked the children to greet their new classmate Kai. She hoped that they would take into account his peculiarity and help him together. But first, they had to talk. The guy had to join the team. Kai himself thought that the teacher herself understands that all small groups of similar interests were formed already in the last semester. As a transferred student, it will be very difficult for him to join at least some kind of team. And even more so for him, a transferred student with disabilities. This is at the level of the impossible. Although there are advantages to this, he will be able to focus on his studies. Unexpectedly for him, a girl approached him, grabbing his arm. She offered to take him to her place. Well, after it, others joined to help the newcomer. One led more carefully so as not to hurt the desk. Another pointed to his new place, while the third offered to help Kai with the bag. But the guy himself did not see a special need for this. The lessons ended. The teacher announced that this was the end of the day, but the new classmates crowded around Kai's desk. They all asked a lot of questions. What school did he transfer from? What's wrong with his eyes? Did they become like this because of an accident? What? One girl who introduced herself as Zhang Kai and said that she had a good relationship with all the teachers. And if the guy needed something, then let him just say it without embarrassment, she would help him. Another classmate, Lai Yifei, promised to treat the guy to dinner, just let him say when it suits him. Another introduced himself as Liu Yuan. Why didn't everything go according to plan? Why are they all so kind to him? Did they know him? Well, to some extent, yes, the class teacher told them about him. Lai Yifei entered the conversation again. He said that Kai's aunt came to school just a couple of days before the guy himself arrived. She said that her nephew, who has poor eyesight and a cold temper, will soon be transferred to them. She asked me to take good care of him. That day, she stood at the school door and handed out candy to everyone, one by one, and almost begged the guys to take care of her nephew. She said that her boy Kai, though cold on the outside, was soft like cotton candy on the inside. Lin Kai chuckled. That's it. The teacher was teaching. He talked about the fact that 100 years ago there were more than 200 countries on Earth. They were located on 7 continents and 4 oceans. Everything was exactly like this until the moment when an all-consuming mysterious fog appeared in Antarctica. Kai's thoughts were far away from the teacher's story. He had no right to disappoint his aunt. She worked hard for him. The teacher continued. The mysterious and highly toxic mist was spreading at a terrible rate. He absorbed 98% of the area of all the land in just a day. The nature of the fog was beyond human knowledge. None of the methods that existed at that time helped against him. and no one knows for sure if there are other countries outside the coverage of this very fog. Perhaps they were all the last survivors on this planet. Water flowed through the sewer pipe. A monster was crawling along the same pipe. It had large claw-like limbs and a body covered in a shell with large and sharp spikes. He would have crawled if he had not met an obstacle on the way. A sword flashed before him, cutting it in two. Another monster was dead. It was all the same trio in red raincoats. It was the night watch. The girl screamed so that the rest would not leave anyone alive. It was necessary to kill from all. When Kimo replied that he accepted, if they continue to hold the mouth of this path, the monsters will definitely not be able to escape. The girl smashed a few more monsters. For her, this was not an opponent with whom she would have to mess around for a long time. She was sure of herself. When Kimo called out to her, while his own eyes were filled with horror, behind Hongan stood a monster 3 times her size. She turned around, not understanding what was happening. At this time, a huge paw picked it up, piercing through with its claws and throwing it away. When Kimo and another girl called out in horror, calling for Hong Ying. With the last of her strength, she contacted to make a report. With long pauses, she said that the battle was over, that because of her mistake they had been defeated. She was asked to tell what happened, or at least just answer, but she did not have the strength to do so. A group of teenagers were walking around the city. The two of them had been arguing with each other for quite some time. One doubted the words of the other. Is he serious? What kind of perverted maniac? But of course he was serious. A friend told him about it. More than a dozen people died there. The girl, who was also in the company, apparently got tired of listening to all this. She asked the guys if everything was fine with their heads, because they only did what they intimidated. Lin Kai suddenly stopped. A scent reached his nose. This smell, the smell of corpses. The guys went forward, continuing to argue. Liu Yuan keeps saying it's impossible. If something was wrong there, then all the news had long been talking about it. Lai Yifei stood his ground. His interlocutor seriously thought that this could not happen. At the same time, he suggested that they check for themselves, or was Liu Yun pissed? Kai Yi, who was still standing by the aisle, asked the company if they could smell it. She stood at the very entrance to the passage. When the guy said this, they themselves began to think that it smelled pretty strange. One of them offered to go inside and see what was there. They were actually heard by the night monster, only now they did not see or hear him. Li Yuan wanted to take a picture of the tunnel, but as soon as the camera flash turned on, everyone lied in horror and screamed. The girl's body seemed to hang just like that. Her clothes were torn, and wounds were bleeding all over her body. The guys, stuttering, shouted help through fear. They continued to watch the sight. A huge blue creature with red eyes dug into the girl's shoulder. Noticing that it was being closely watched, the creature threw away its prey. It growled and was ready to pounce on the guys. Out of fear, they did not go and move. Lai Yifei was the first to come to his senses. He was the first to move from his place and began to shout to the others to run too, and not to stand like idols as just a minute ago. The stupor really went away. They screamed and started off. The monster also moved. He did not want to let go of those who noticed him. Lin Kai felt it right behind him. Zhang Kaiyan wanted to turn around, but the guy shouted to everyone not to look back. The guy and the girl were the last to run. And the monster was already very close. The young people were already threatening to be eaten. The girl could no longer, and in order to relieve herself and run faster, she took off her backpack. She threw him backhand, not realizing that Lin Kai was still running behind her. The guy felt that something was approaching him and crouched down without stopping running. The briefcase hit the monster right on the neck, but that didn't slow him down in the slightest. But you could still be saved. The exit was very close. Zhang Kaiyan was already running out of the tunnel, but another monster appeared from around the corner, which knocked the girls off their feet and blocked the passage with itself. Lin Kai was in a hopeless situation. From both possible sides, the escape routes were blocked. The boy was about to die. Another one. Lai Kai stopped in confusion. At this time, the monster, which was catching up with him from the back, was already too close to the guy. Realizing that the victim is still in a stupor, the monster attacked, but Kai Yi dodged in time. He had to fight. He clenched his teeth and armed himself with a walking stick, which helped him in walking. He hit the monster several times with his makeshift weapon. But the problem was that there were two monsters. The monster, which was still behind his back, sharply hit the guy on the back with his paw so that he flew several meters, and then he rolled on the ground for a few more meters. Damn, he hit his shin so hard. But he was no longer in the tunnel. Seeing another monster, he tried to call Zhang Kaiyan, but no one answered him. In an attempt to escape, the guy crawled against the wall. But from above it was also easy to pass. There were even railings. This was also a problem, because when Kai raised his head, leaning on these railings with his front paws, another blue creature was standing. And it was worth just looking at him as he jumped down. Lai Kai sat with his back against the wall. All this made him very angry. Why did all this happen to him? He recalled how, as a child, he sat in the same way against the wall under the door. In childhood, he lost his sight and was treated all his life as a mentally ill person. And no matter how hard it was for him, he still endured it all. And when it seemed that the crappy time was left behind, he began a new life. But now there are these bastards. The guy's hand tightened around the cane, veins popped out on the arm. He screamed that he hated them all. And his hatred was so strong that when he shouted it, golden streams of magic poured out of his eyes. They circled and circled around him. Far away in space, a red-orange streak of light appeared. A god with long snow-white hair and 6 golden wings squinted at this line, and then turned to the moon. The red bandage that had previously been on Lin Kai's eyes began to dissolve into something. The boy's eyes glowed with a bright yellow light. There was blood on one side of his face. The monsters watched as a rather large ball of light formed around their victim. This time they could not do anything. And even if they could, they would be afraid to come closer to this light. Light curled around the guy. He himself was in pain. A large column of light rose from him into the air. It was visible even on the outskirts of the city. It was so huge. The man ran down the street with a road sign that said no entry. He asked what was wrong with Hong In, the guy in the red coat. When Chemo is reporting the situation, the encirclement operation failed. They were ambushed by ghostly creatures, and Hong In was seriously injured. By the way, at that time the wounded woman received first aid from the girl, who was the third in their team. Ghost creatures. How many have escaped? And where did they go? There were 3 of them. They entered the old city southwest of the man. He had to deal with them. He continued to run down the road with the sign and all his other belongings. When the column of light appeared, it stopped. What? Is this the birth of a forbidden ruin? The Trinity in their hiding place was also surprised by such a bright light. They all took notice, even Hong In, who was severely injured. What is this incredible energy? This man, his strength is beyond the level of the 5 realms. And according to Wen Chemo, she was at the level of 6 spheres. How could someone so powerful be in a small town like Canaan? And at the headquarters behind the dashboard, the man was watching what was happening with Lin Kai. This energy was not like the energy of the forbidden ruins and people. It was more like the one that belongs to God. The guy kept changing. God code 003. King of Angels, Michael. He brought his hand closer to his face. Finally, 10 years have passed, and he is back in the flesh. The magic continued to swirl around him, only now in the shape of a dome. Too slow. Not only was his reaction speed removed, but also his range of perception. The monsters, as before, stood in a circle next to him. Now not 10. No, now Ki could sense everything within 20 meters. The monsters roared. They wanted to attack, but now the guy felt everything. And even when one of the monsters rushed straight at him, he did not lose his head. Behind him was a 6-winged god. Lai Kai twirled the cane in his hands, and then hit the monster right in the face with it. Turning around, he charged another with it. The monster was distracted for a while, touching the wounded area with its paw. Now he had a chance to survive, and maybe even kill his opponents. But suddenly it began to triple in the eyes, and after Kai completely lost his balance. After flying a few meters, he landed on his knees. His body couldn't move anymore. The monsters howled inquiringly. Even they understood that something had gone wrong. But they did not lose their chances and attacked the motionless guy. Kai knew that it was all over. There was no way for him to escape. There was a screech of metal, such as is heard when a sword is drawn from its scabbard. After that, the sound of a flesh sword carving rang out. Some man deftly cut the long tongue of one monster. The guy was in shock. The man slew the monsters one by one. So strong. When the monsters were finished, the man lit a cigarette and asked the guy who he was. But while the guy came to his senses, he reported on what had happened. He was done with everything, and the cleaning team had to head to the old city to clean up all the remains of the monster corpses. When he finished speaking, he sighed loudly, standing with his back to Ki. He asked if he liked it, but the guy did not quite understand what he was talking about. Does he like the knife that the man had? Did he like? The man asked him to answer. He liked him, didn't he? And he would gladly gift the bladed weapon to Ki if he joined him. But the guy just turned his head to the side. He was not interested. This shocked the man. He cried out, "Why?" The guy's answer was simple: he could die. The man put his arm around his shoulder. This guy shouldn't jump to conclusions. And in the end, he should have talked about the whole situation. The man introduced himself as Zhao Kongchen. And by the way, he was not a bad person. Yes, of course, Kai believed, but now could he? This man let him go. He needed to pick up his school bag. It contained important study books. Zhao Kongchen released the boy, but only let him return. The guy waved away the cigarette smoke with his hand and coughed slightly. Strangely enough, Zhao used all his strength to the maximum, but even so, he could not match this young man. At the entrance to the house, his younger brother was waiting for him, with a dog sitting on his head. He asked why his brother came home so late that day. Lin Kai replied that it was fine, that he was just left after class. He also asked his brother if he had finished his homework. Well, he's almost done. Yes, that's fine. He himself is tired, so he will go to bed. Yes, and let the brother go to bed as soon as he finishes his homework. The brother agreed, but when Kai was already climbing the stairs, he asked if he was sure everything was in order. But he again replied that yes, everything is fine. He again said that he had gone to bed and said good night. The interlocutor answered the same. Only now, as soon as the guy moved away, Zio Kai lightly poked the dog with his pen. Did he smell that body odor too? It smells like blood. The door to the boy's room slammed shut. He himself dropped his backpack onto a chair, lay down and exhaled. He's so tired. Who would have thought that something like this would happen to him, and even immediately after transferring to another school? Uncle, who obviously invited him somewhere and asked to join him, he is clearly not an ordinary person. The guy remembered all the fragments of this strange evening. Is he in some big organization connected to the dark side of their world? Lin Kai wanted to know exactly what happened then. But if some secrets become known, then all the worst will begin to come out. He didn't want to be a hero. He just wanted to protect his home and family. He covered his eyes and forehead with his hand. From fatigue, it turned out to fall asleep almost instantly. He saw the castle on the rock again. The sky was as dark as usual, but this time around the sky, lightning flashed one by one. Oh, there he is again. And he will have to knock on those gates again. How tired. But as soon as they were touched, Lin Kai seemed to be electrocuted. They opened. The guy again pressed on the doors. They moved with difficulty. To move them even further, he had to sweat. Opened. They are finally open. Lightning flashed, eerily illuminating the sign on the building that said Psychiatric Hospital. Opened. They are finally open. The guy stood in indecision in front of a huge, frightening building. Hesitantly, he took the first step. The rest of the steps were easier for Lin Kai. For 5 years he waited. And he was finally let in. He walked along the corridors, examining everything here and there. He stopped at the wall, touched it with his hand. On the other side of it hung a table with pointers to the clinic, hospital, and other premises. Why did he get the feeling that he had already been in this psychiatric hospital? Without wasting precious time, he went further inland. The layout matched perfectly. Strange. Wandering farther and farther, he came across another branching corridor. The guy looked at what was in it, but did not enter. No. Still, it was completely different. Still deciding to go through it, Lin Kai stopped at one of the doors. She was different from others. It was completely covered from floor to ceiling with various red symbols. Could it be that prohibition is a real god in this psychiatric hospital? The guy took the doorknob and turned it. Opened. The symbols glow purple. They glowed brighter and brighter. In the end, the door lit up with a golden light, blinding the guy. As soon as they could see what was inside the room, Lin Kai's eyes widened in surprise. There was a bed by the window. The wind was blowing the curtains, and a girl was sitting on the bed. Young woman. She looked very sad. She did not even pay attention to the newcomer, continuing to look at the floor and think about something of her own. Lin Kai said hello, introduced himself, and already asked the girl what her name was. She again did not respond to the guy, but a message appeared in front of him. Patient, Nukta. Objective. Help Nukta to treat a mental illness. When the progress of treatment reaches 1%, 50%, 100%, you can choose some of her abilities. Current progress in treatment, 0%. The ancient Greek goddess of the night, Nukta. The guy was surprised, but stopped before the next message with information. Something dinged in the message. Nukta, ancient Greek goddess of the night. One of the 5 creator goddesses of the night. Her body is the embodiment of the dark night. She is one of the greatest goddesses in Greek mythology. Possesses powerful strength that allows her to contain almost any god. Is such a strong goddess suffering from mental illness, and Lin Kai needs to heal her. But what kind of illness does she have? Depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, or trite nonsense? Deciding not to waste time, he asked the goddess if she could hear him, if she could see him. But the girl, who until then had been sitting quietly on the bed, suddenly jumped up and screamed about her child. About her child. Their eyes met, and Kai thought about how the hell the Greek goddess speaks Chinese. A smile broke out on her face and a tear rolled down her cheek. She reached out her hand and said that she had finally found him, her child. The guy was struck by lightning. He stalled. Child, although, if you think about it, as far as he could remember, he had been raised by his aunt all his life, and he did not remember his parents at all. Could it be? The goddess ran, shouting in parallel that the mother was going to her son. The guy stood at first in shock, but then prepared for a hug. Nukta continued to call her son. But the girl ran past Lin Kai while hugging the vase. She spoke to the vase as if it were her child. She said that he was indeed alive, that she had finally found him. Looking the other way, she spoke again that Hypnos, her baby, was also there. It seems that now the guy understood what she was sick with. The woman went on and on naming names. Hypnos, Charon, Thanatos, Moira, Nemesis, Eris, oh, they were here too, Atropa Eros, Moros, Apata. Kaigi was ready to howl. He reached out his hand and woke up. And what should he do with her? The students walking to school turned around in surprise at the man who was standing at the gate. It was Zhao Kongchen. He nervously smoked and waited. That guy lied to him last night, you son of a bitch. So that day he personally came to his school, the place where he hides. Then he thought that this kid was strong. I thought he was at least at the level of the third realm. But this asshole turned out to be a beginner in the first realm. In any case, they had to contact him as soon as possible and get him. It must not be allowed to fall into the hands of the old god church. The priority of resolving this issue was higher than the proceedings with the illusory king. The man was more interested in how the captain and the others were doing. Is their pursuit of the ghostly king going well? At this time, the guards began to close the school gates, which meant that no one else could enter the school grounds. Noticing this, Zhao shouted to the guard if the child he asked about had come to school. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Lin Kai was talking to a doctor. The man was asking about the girlfriend the guy had just told about. He clarified whether she treats everything she sees as her children. It was like that. He asked how long she was crying, but the girl was crying all the time. The doctor wrote down everything in the medical record, constantly sitting in his room and telling stories to vases, stools, table. From the outside it would seem that this is nonsense, but it was all just that. The man asked if she slept a lot, but she hardly slept at all. In the end, the doctor came to the conclusion that Lin Kai's friend did not have any mental illness, she was just heavily delusional. He recommended to bring her to this hospital, and they would have her hospitalized. But she, so to speak, was in a special place, so it would not have been possible to hospitalize her. Since she could not be hospitalized, then in order to help her, one had to rely only on medicines. The doctor agreed to prescribe several pairs of medicines for Kim. The guy was supposed to buy them, come back and give them to Nukta. If even after them her condition does not improve, she will need to go to the hospital. Was it even possible to transfer the medicine from real life to a dream? Even if he could somehow bring them to sleep and give them to her, would they be able to act on the goddess? After leaving the hospital, Lin Kai quickly went somewhere. The women who stood nearby assumed that this was someone's too young father. It was already evening when Lin Kai went home. Everything would be fine, but with peripheral vision, he noticed that someone was following him. He turned around. It was Zhao Kongchen. Damn, he was waiting for this guy from 6 in the morning until 5 in the evening. The man's whole body was numb and he even managed to tan in the sun. Kaigi seemed to know that he was there and therefore, out of spite, did not come. As soon as the guy realized who was standing in front of him, he immediately tried to escape. Zhao yelled at him to stop and wait. Seeing that they were not going to obey him, the man jumped and, twisting in the air, landed right in front of the guy, stepping on his foot and pressing him against the wall. And where did he run? He made Zhao wait for him for a long time, so now the man won't let him leave so easily. The guy protected himself from this man and asked who this uncle was. If he started to pester him, he would start screaming. But such a threat did not work on Zhao. He told Lin Kai not to pretend like he didn't know anything. The man could see right through him, so there was no way for the guy to run away from him this time. They had a serious conversation coming up, so the guy had to go with Zhao. And where did they go? If only he didn't pull so hard on his arm. But the guy was supposed to know everything as soon as they arrived at the place. The cats in the alley rubbed against each other. The building was completely lit with neon. Above the top floor was a Love Hotel sign. Kaigi opened his mouth in surprise. They needed to go there. The guy, when he came to his senses where everything was going, began to try to somehow get out and leave. He asked what this man was up to. In an attempt to refuse, he said that they could not. What did he have? 2. He's got hemorrhoids. The man looked at Kaigi with displeasure. A pretty girl was waiting for them at the reception. Zhao Kongchen rented them a room called Dynamic Passion with a king-size bed. The boy turned his head and covered his face with his hand. He still couldn't believe that his uncle had brought him to such a place just to talk. As soon as the room door opened, the man threw Lin Kai onto the bed. Coming closer, he said to tell how the guy is connected with the king of the angels, Michael. Nut number 8. Who are the gods? September 1922. A crowd of people in white suits glowed with lanterns. The light fell directly on someone's scales. The team, whose goal is to study in the fog, observed a huge dragon flying in the sky. It was a Leviathan, Chaos Dragon. Flashlights of all members of the research group hit the ground. The researchers themselves also fell. Some fell on their knees, some fell forward, some back, but those who could were sure to hold onto their heads. This case is the first in history when people noticed mythical creatures. God Code 003, Michael. Their very existence has undermined humanity's understanding of their world. To maintain stability in society, they hid the existence of mythical creatures. Since the Leviathan was discovered first, He was assigned the number code 001. And the King of Angels, Michael, whom Lin Kai saw, was the third mythical creature discovered by people. He was observed in 1928. God code 003. Kai Yu listened in surprise. Zhao Kongshan lit a cigarette. March 1928. The beam of light from the golden sword came to the planet directly from the moon. He traveled through space and leveled a volcano in North America. And then they learned that there is also a god on the moon. The explorers climbed up the slope. Soon they still managed to find the crater. Due to the thick fog, it took the research team a year to get to that very volcano. They did a thorough research on it, and in the end, they found the sealed god right in the crater. He was assigned number 004, fallen angel Lucifer, and after some time, they discovered that children who were born after the spread of the fog had the ability to awaken special abilities. These abilities they called Forbidden Ruins. Opportunities, scope, characteristics of the Forbidden Ruins, all this will grow along with the growth of the spiritual power of the owner. Yesterday's golden light is Michael's energy fluctuation, and at the moment of its manifestation, the Forbidden Ruins of Lin Kai should have awakened. The guy who had already sat up on the bed waved his hand in front of his eyes and thought. So that's what it was. His ability to sense what's going on around him is the power of the Forbidden Ruin, and dynamic vision and divine power of the Seraphim. And then the fact that the sight returned to the guy is nothing more than an increase in his abilities. Zhao Kongshan was already standing with a mug and pouring tea. According to the strength of spiritual power, the strength of the Forbidden Ruins is divided into 6 areas. The man explained how it is distributed. There is so little power that it will fit in a circle, the first kingdom. There is so much power that it will fit in a pond, the second kingdom. There is so much power that it will fit in a river, and at the same time it will have many flow channels and straits, the third kingdom. There is so much power that it can fill the entire oceans of the world, but it can still be measured, the fourth realm. A force that violates the spatial dimension by its quantity, but is still measurable, the fifth realm, but not measurable, compared with the other 5, strength. With its dimensions, it violates the very understanding of the space of space, the sixth kingdom. Hearing the strength of the last, 6th realm, Lin Kai's eyes lit up. He thought it was pretty cool, and he was also interested in what kingdom he himself was in then. The man replied that he was in the 1st realm, but in order not to completely reassure the guy, he patted him on the shoulder and said that he was a little stronger than an ordinary person. Kai Yu thought again. Then the fact that he managed to open the gate to the mental hospital in a dream is nothing but a breakthrough into the spiritual realm. Could this mean that every time he completes a task with patience, he is closer to breaking through to another realm? Interesting. What about him? What level is Zhao Kongshan at? The man left the mug and cleared his throat. It didn't have a forbidden ruin. Therefore, there is no spiritual power, respectively. What? Doesn't he have spiritual power? But how did he kill those monsters then? But he relied only on his combat experience and strict combat training. Before joining the Night Watch, he was a commando. Oh, anyway, it was amazing. And now they had to talk about the Forbidden Ruins. There are 3 ways to awaken the Forbidden Ruins. The first way is what the man had already told the guy just now, the natural acquisition of the Forbidden Ruin. The second is to use special forbidden goods on the black market. And the third is when God himself grants you strength. Some gods give part of their power to the people chosen for themselves, thus making them their preachers. Naturally, for their power, the gods ask their preachers to do what they are told. For all the time, adequate preachers of the gods can be counted on the fingers, their units, but it is a proven fact that they acted according to the will of their gods. Most of the discovered preachers of the gods believe in an evil god, so they tried to destroy humanity and turn the world into chaos. They founded an organization called the Church of the Old Gods. Now Zhao was asking what Michael had told him to do, and which side is he on. But Lin Kai did not understand what the man was talking about. Michael didn't say anything to him, didn't say anything, so he didn't hear his voice. Something doesn't add up. According to their assumption, Michael is either on the neutral side or on the good side, and if he lent the guy his strength for a while, but didn't say anything at the same time, what are his intentions then? Kai had no idea what the god's goals were, but even so, he was not going to follow any of his orders. In principle, he did not want to get involved in this complete mess. So everything that Mikhail gives him, he will return to him back. And if his answer suited Zhao, then he was going to leave. The guy had already got up from the wall and went to the exit, waving his hand when he was grabbed by the same hand. What did he do? Zhao had told him so much about this world that he didn't want to ask anything else. Isn't he interested in learning about Zhao, the organization he works for? But he said he didn't care. And in general, he had already seen a similar situation on TV. If he learns the secret of this organization of theirs, then either he will have to join them, or they will kill him, or they will close him in prison and brainwash him there. This young man clearly should have watched less TV. That is, if he finds out about this organization of theirs and does not want to join, then nothing bad will happen to him. Zhao Kongchen replied that of course not. They are soldiers after all. The worst thing they could have forced him to do was sign a non-disclosure agreement, and what Lin Kai just said is complete nonsense. Okay, if so, the guy will listen to Zhao. After the discovery of the Leviathan, the dignitaries of their country urgently set up a military response organization to prepare for the invasion of the mythical creatures. They named it the 139th Special Bioresponse Task Force. As time passes, they observe more and more mythical creatures, as well as carriers of the Forbidden Ruins. In addition, they tried to establish contact with several gods and teach their soldiers special combat talents in order to resist mythical creatures. Today, this organization is called the Night Watch. They are soldiers. Their task is to protect the country from gods and monsters. The Night Watch exists to protect people from suffering. Isn't such a noble and venerable organization suited to talented young people? After all, they want to protect their families. Having joined them, they successfully fulfill this goal. Lin Kai is also very talented, so yes, the organization is indeed noble. The guy respected them, and Zhao himself, too, really, but he could not join them. But why? And the guy began his story. He has a family, aunt and cousin. For the sake of him and her brother, she worked at the factory day and night. Kai believed that because of them, 10 years of her life flew by as one. She spoiled her health. But how stubborn she is. It is obvious that she often cries because of the sharply appeared pains in her whole body. She does not want to show it, she has to endure. He sat next to her all the time. And all the time she thought that he did not see anything, did not understand anything. She lived a hard life, she was very tired. And Lin Kai's cousin, he is very smart. He has a great future ahead of him. Therefore, he cannot afford to leave this house. He had to study hard and then earn a lot of money to provide for his family. He set himself a goal. He had to buy a big house for his aunt and cousin. He wanted his aunt to never have to go back to that damn factory again. Lin Kai did not want her to suffer further, exhaust herself. For 10 years they took care of him and never once gave reason to doubt that they want to abandon him, a blind invalid. And now that his eyes had finally healed, he had to leave them behind, quit. The boy got out of bed again. He considered it his duty to remain by their side always. He so wanted. Take care of your family. The boy's stubborn gaze collided with Zhao's surprised gaze. The man grinned and sighed. That asshole, it seems he thought of him too simply. The guy went to the exit. In any case, he was grateful to Zhao for telling him so many things. And Kai was even willing to sign a confidentiality agreement. Returning home, the guy immediately began to change clothes. He thought that this world is really complex, mythical, strange. Well, I talked with that man. And now it was time for him to continue to treat diseases in his sleep. Suddenly, something that looked like a medallion fell out of his pocket. The boy looked at him with interest. The name of the owner was written on the medallion. Zhao Kongchen. Is this the guy's thing? The words were written on the reverse side. If the dark beings come again, I will stand in front of thousands of people, and in order to protect them, I will cross the sword with the poor and stain the sky with blood. What noble words. Is it the motto of the Night Watch? Screams came from behind the open door. Someone shouted that it was useless, that the speaker did not want anything else. Lin Kai put on a medical gown and other medical things that could help him. Well, from that moment began today's treatment. In a large room, Nukta was sitting on a bedspread. Buckets, jugs, and other utensils were placed in front of her. She asked Hypnos to try this. The guy, sitting almost directly opposite the goddess, thought. He went to a mental hospital, studied Greek mythology. But so far he had no idea how to deal with it. According to the myths, Nukta and indeed the oldest and most powerful gods in all of Greek mythology. She has over 20 children, including the god of death Thanatos, the god of sleep Hypnos, the goddess of fate, and so on. Maybe her delirium began because she misses her children too much, since she considers these bottles and jars her children. At this time, a woman told one vase not to worry that his brother would return soon, that he was just playing somewhere. What happened to her children? What made Nukta so flustered? She said that Thanatos, her baby, has been in trouble since childhood. When he returns, she would like to teach her son a lesson. But it's been 3,000 years. Why hasn't he come back yet? Tears of bitterness rolled down her cheeks. Lin Kai did not expect that the goddess of the night, who is considered one of the strongest on Olympus, would turn out to be such a bad mother. Suddenly, the guy was hit on the head. Wait, it seems that he realized exactly how he can help Nukta. The guy got up and walked over to the goddess sitting on the floor. Nukta madly misses her children. She sees them literally in everything that surrounds her. Then maybe Kai should just play along with her, and then he can get through to her heart. The guy hugged the goddess, whispering in her ear that he had returned and calling her mother. Tears rolled down her face with renewed vigor. She dropped the jug and hugged the guy back. She congratulated her child on her return. Along with this came the notice. 3%. You have fulfilled the conditions for receiving the reward. The guy was glad that he at least achieved something, releasing the guy from the hug. Nukta handed him a cup of tea. At the same time, another notification came. You completed the quest by 3%. The first condition for receiving a reward. You are randomly given one of Nukta's abilities. The guy pressed the button to start extracting. A large circle appeared in front of him, divided into sectors. A red arrow ran around these sectors, randomly choosing the ability that Kai would get. As expected of a great goddess of the night, her ability was commendable. But what is divine fertility? This skill could definitely be used in combat. The arrow finally stopped at one of the sectors, Starry Night Dance. Well, it certainly doesn't sound too cool, but at least not some kind of fertility. Symbols accompanied by blue light swirled between the boy and the goddess. The woman herself at that time said that this was her favorite dish, and carried the plate to Kai Yi. He looked at the symbols and grabbed them in his fist. This power transformed his body, his soul, his body. This power completely covered everything. A list of Lin Kai's new features appeared. You are able to communicate with nocturnal animals. By fighting at night, you intimidate other creatures. Under the cover of night, you are almost impossible to see. At dusk, your regeneration, speed, strength, and vitality are 5 times higher than normal. Starry Night Dance. Wow, and Dance of the Starry Night gave him many advantages, only due to the fact that his characteristics are 5 times higher than that of an ordinary person. He could already be called a Superman. Even when reaching the normal physical form, the 5 times bonus will allow Lin Kai to step over the limits of human capabilities. He finally got the power to protect his family. Nukta at that time said that the older brother of Thanatos missed him very much. She asked him to hug his brother. The guy agreed. Kai put his hand forward. It had a bottle of pills on it. The label says Halopridol. He put the jar on the table and ran out of the room, saying that he would be back soon. Walking down the corridor, he came to another door. He had to strain to open it. There were many racks in the room, on which thousands, or even more, of the same jars of pills were placed. Morning has come. At 6:30, the alarm rang and Lin Kai got out of bed. He went to the window and stretched. Wow, he felt so rested. It was the first time he had slept so soundly. Without thinking twice, he began to descend. In the hallway, my aunt was about to leave. The guy asked her why she left for work so early that day. But it was because the factory had a new batch of parts, so they had more work to clear. She was already leaving, along the way reminding the guy to have breakfast himself and also to feed his brother. Kai opened his eyes. It was early morning and the sun was shining brightly, so he had to close his eyes and cover his eyes with his hand. The aunt also reminded that the boys needed to go to school and that they should not be late. She turned around when her nephew called out to her. He immediately said that he sees. At first, the aunt opened her mouth in surprise, and then tears appeared in her eyes and she hugged Kai. It was great, no, wonderful. At this time, the brother came running to the sounds of conversation. He also thought it was great. Finally, his older brother could see. He was very happy for him. As soon as he entered high school, all the attention was focused on him. The girls asked him if he was Lin Kai, to which he replied positively. They told him how beautiful he was, asked how his eyes were and said that they were the most beautiful in him. The guy from this was very embarrassed and did not know what to answer. In the classroom, the guy did not talk to anyone. The place next to him was empty, and the 2 guys sitting further were also silent. However, at some point a girl approached him and asked how it happened and if he could tell about it. It seemed to her that a miracle had happened, but Kyo answered that he had just returned from the hospital yesterday, where he was treated properly. The guy was standing on the roof. Next to him were 2 guys bowing. They not only bowed, but also apologized. They apologized for being so scared at that moment that they couldn't think of anything better than to run away. They left him and Jong Kyan in that terrible place. Why is she? The guy interrupted them and said nothing. This is typical of them, people. After all, they were animals too. This instinct is to save your life. And if he had been in their place, he would probably have run away from there much faster than them. Is it true? Was he really not angry or blaming them? By the way, Liu Yuan was wondering if those strange people also came to Kai. Did they force him to sign a non-disclosure agreement too? The night they came to Liu Yuan, he was scared to death. But even so, the guy had to sign what he was asked. But Lai Yifei, to be honest, he wanted to join them. What? Join? He thought being an ordinary person was boring. And join a mysterious and powerful organization. Yes, this is the dream of any man, to fight the enemies hiding in human society. But what he thought was cool was too reckless. He could die on the very first mission, and even his body could not reach his parents. Kai turned around and walked away, continuing to mutter under his breath that he would leave this world and there would be nothing left of him. Lai Yifei stood there and did not understand why there was such a reaction to his words. When Kai Yi was walking up the porch, he noticed that it was going to rain soon. Entering the apartment, the guy immediately said that he had returned. Going further and looking into the kitchen, He saw a man. It was Zhao Kongchen. Again he. What? But how did he find Lin Kai's house? To this, the man showed a medallion with that noble quote. He tossed the thing into the guy's pocket. With her help, he was able to find a guy. But Kai had already said that he would not join them. But Zhao understood. And this time he was there for absolutely no reason. Having said this, he took out a bundle of red bills from his pocket. What does this mean? The man asked if the guy mind if he smokes a cigarette. But in response there was a formidable objection. His father died when he was 6. His mother worked 2 jobs, but there was still not enough money to support him. At school, he studied at 1-5. It's not difficult to become excellent students in a village school. But even despite his success in school, he still dreamed of becoming a soldier. And when he left the house, his mother just looked, didn't say anything, stood and was silent. It was difficult for him to decide to leave. He wanted to stay with her. But when the determination was enough to leave, he put an end to this issue for himself. He was obliged to leave home in order to achieve military success, receive medals for outstanding services, and, dressed in a beautiful military uniform, return home. Zhao Kongchen joined the special forces, and his promotions grew at an alarming rate. He was assigned to the night watch unit because his forte is close combat. His mother is too tired from work. Because of her, she ruined her health. Therefore, after demobilization from the special forces, he wanted to stay in the village as a personnel officer in order to help his mother in everything. That's just. He joined the night watch. Therefore, he could not stay with her in order to provide her with a decent old age. But Kai was different. He was much more prudent than Zhao. He has his own dreams, ideas, and he wanted to stay close to his family to take care of them. Zhao was glad that the guy chose this path for himself. He had to quietly live his life, clover, so to speak, and he can safely leave the protection of the world to their organization. He brought the guy money to buy something for his aunt, for his cousin. The man did not want the mother who replaced the guy to be too tired at work, but Kai refused to take the money. To the words that it was for his aunt and that he should take them, the guy replied that she did not want this and that she would not accept them either. Although his family was poor, they had their own income, and they did not need the money that the soldier received in return for risking his life. His sight returned, so that he was able to feed his family on his own. Damn, how direct was this boy? Well then, that's it. Zhao had to leave. It was raining outside. The guy came out with a man to the entrance. Then Zhao said, "You cannot see him off. He made Kai a bright future." The guy, in response, wished him to accomplish a worthy feat. At this time, my aunt came to the house. Finally she returned. The guy immediately called me to help. Seeing a man leaving from their side, she asked Kai if he knew him and who he was. But he only dismissed that this is an ordinary person, a janitor. The man was walking in the pouring rain. He took out the medallion and began to examine it. If the dark beings come again, I will stand in front of thousands of people, and in order to protect them, I will cross the sword with the poor and stain the sky with blood. Unexpectedly, he was contacted. The situation was on the brink of an emergency. But what is? Will the Ghost King be there soon? Yes, they stumbled upon the blood of the Ghost King. Based on the location, he directed me either to the old city or to the center of the new. Zhao was lucky because he was in the old city. But how can he find the monster? Hongyan has already gone to him. She will help. But his task is to evacuate the inhabitants of the old city. And the sooner the better. Hongyan, isn't she hurt? What about the captain? The captain, together with a large detachment, went to the center of the city. But the center is overcrowded with people. They won't be able to evacuate everyone completely. Once the ghostly king appears in the center of the city, the consequences will be disastrous. But why did they do that? They wanted to send the Ghost King to the old city and fight him there just because there were fewer people living in the old city. Old Zhao was ordered to calm down, and no one told him that they would do this to the old city. But if the Phantom King was indeed heading towards Zhao, then the man should not have directly attacked him. The monster was too tough for him. He was supposed to lure him into a trap, annular airspace, delay him, and the squad led by the captain would just have time to approach. The man accepted. We had to take action. He walked over to the truck and opened it. It contained a bunch of traffic signs that forbade the passage. But the annular airspace might not trap the Ghost King. As soon as the Ghost King is in front of people, they will definitely panic and make a mess, so you need to arrange everything in a smart way to keep the king out of sight. Zhao thought evacuating to a bunker or tunnel would be the best idea, so all he had to do as soon as possible was to evacuate the residents of the old city to a safe place. The man took off and ran as fast as he could. There was little time. Running past one of the houses, the man turned around. So he was again at this house. Judging by his calculations, this family only had to sit down to dinner. Suddenly, an alien smell touched his nose. He sighed it again to ascertain its origin. Corpse stink. Zhao turned around in all directions to understand where this smell was coming from. His eyes stumbled upon a sewer hatch, from which a black liquid was seething. Looks like he hit the jackpot. The worst jackpot in his entire life. He reported that he, the Watcher Zhao Kongchen, spotted the Phantom King in the Old City. He should have stopped. Their detachment at that moment was already leaving for the Old City. Hongyan and the others were supposed to be there soon. The man was required to delay the monster for at least 5 minutes. Zhao was asked not to fight the Phantom King. At that time, it was enough for him to simply lure him into a trap, as they agreed. The unsuspecting midair had no anchoring effect if no one was inside. The Ghost-Face King will not be trapped for a minute. The man was again told not to fight him for anything and under no circumstances. But it was too late to evacuate anyone. The voice said that there were casualties every day. They, the night watchmen, are not omnipotent. They could not prevent all death and suffering. And they could not lose an experienced member of their squad because of the Ghostly King. Zhao was asked if he was listening at all, but he did not answer. He was told to calm down, that this impulsiveness was useless. But Zhao Kongchen was busy. He placed the signs in the order he knew only. He asked Shonen if he remembered the oath they had taken with him. Zhao made the last sign. A creature burst out of the sewer manhole with a loud roar. The man armed himself with his sword, although there were not thousands of people behind him. But behind him was the whole world of this young man, his everything. Water swirled around the Ghost King and Zhao. The monster extended its clawed paw towards the man, holding a sword in his hand as a shield. He spoke the forbidden ruin, the annular airspace. Pillars of red magic shot up from the signs. The space between the signs, which formed a triangle, was also embraced by magic. The road around the hatch formed a kind of crater. Magic flowed from the sign in a thin stream. At home, someone took out a piece of meat from a plate of rice and said that this day was just great. The guy at the table was worried about something and was spinning all the time. The aunt even told him to eat more and not save her money, but he never responded. Kai only answered when he was called a few more times. He only said that yes, he understood his aunt. The younger brother, Ah-jin, chewed dinner with abandon. He needed to eat a lot. He was still growing, so he needed to eat as much as possible. But he, too, called out to me not immediately. Damn, when did these kids get so distracted? Or maybe they stopped liking their aunt's cooking. But Ah-jin replied that he would eat everything right now. And why is she? Kai continued to spin. So, where did the little black brat go? The aunt was the first to notice that the pet was standing at the window. The guy went out to the balcony and, stroking Chernish, asked what it was. Did he really see something? But looking down, Kai saw a familiar sign prohibiting passage. And during the day it was definitely not there yet. Realizing that something had happened, the guy ran out into the street, shouting to his aunt that he urgently needed to go somewhere. The man took out a crumpled cigarette and a lighter. He lit a cigarette, exhaled the smoke. He didn't think that the Ghost-Face King would step out on him. The monster stood and looked at Zhao, did not attack, did nothing. The captain gets angry. It didn't even cross my mind that he could inflict such serious wounds on a man. Perhaps during the rainy weather, he became even stronger. And if he was able to hurt Zhao so seriously, then his strength had definitely increased. The monster finally decided to attack. He ran at the man. The same, did not know what to do. For starters, he tossed aside his half-smoked cigarette. All he had to do was use everything he had. The man jumped. The monster jumped after him. The 5 claws of the monster's hand met in the air with Zhao's swords. He repelled the attack, and then hit the Ghostly King several times in the stomach. Nothing worked. His sword didn't leave a scratch on him. Why do they have such a big power difference? The man jumped again, trying to attack again. But he was swept away by the water. As soon as the man landed, he spat out blood. Is he good? Yes, not bad, for some sort of mystical creature. This obviously angered the monster and he roared. Along the way, purple magic began to appear around him. What? Forbidden ruin. Soon, the magic that continued to swirl formed a pattern of the monster's head. Forbidden Ruin 176. The Forbidden Ruin allows the perception of beings who are realms below or equal to the wearer to be deceived by changing the concept of space. Purple clouds swirled around Zhao. He struggled to stay on his feet, even keeping himself on the ground with his sword. But still, he soon fell to his knees, coughing several times. The man flew back again, coughing. If this continues, then he will definitely glue the fins there. Zhao did not lose hope. He stood up again, took up his sword. But space deceived him. Then he took a deep breath and retreated into himself, closing his eyes. He needed to stabilize. Where will he attack from? Zhao closed his eyes again. When the man opened them, he knew exactly which side the Ghostly King would attack from. Therefore, he easily repelled the attack, and the claws met in a fight with the sword. After that, he drove back a few meters through the water. Well, the monster must have been surprised, right? Even though he also had a forbidden ruin, it was not even a match for a human one. If his ruin was even a little more stable, then Zhao Qingchen would definitely hoard there. The man chuckled at something. Too bad it rained that day. The Phantom King could deceive him, but the rain would not deceive a man. The man actively attacked the monster. It could be said that the mystic beast had an advantage. If Zhao also had the forbidden ruin, he would have died 800 fucking times already. The man thrust the sword into the enemy, but he got stuck right in his body. The man swore dirtily. His wounded body was thrown back again. The man fell to the ground. Lying there, he remembered something from his youth. Zhao Kongchen was standing on a pedestal. A man was standing next to him, and many people were crowding around. The guy was given a coat of arms. This emblem is a symbol of the Night Watch, the key to the last, deadly move. Embedded in the crest was Ghost Spirit Guide. It burned all of a person's life force in exchange for a vast improvement in spiritual strength. Even if he didn't have the Forbidden Ruin, this thing would cause the body to awaken. But using it would mean the end of his life. Therefore, he could only use it as a last resort. The time has come. He was about to do it, when suddenly he was called, and then again, and again. The guy knew that Zhao was there and demanded that he open this fucking space and let him in. The man replied that he was sure that the asshole had not yet had time to finish his dinner. So what the hell was he doing there? He had to go back and get out of there. The guy did not understand what he had to do with him at all. It claimed to be his father. He knew that the man locked himself inside along with the ghostly king. If they let him in, he would help him. Yes, at least he himself understood that he was dumb. It wasn't some henchman, it was the Ghost King himself. He was 2 kingdoms taller than that asshole. Yes, this guy is just a high school student. Did he think of dying an inglorious death? And besides, wasn't he afraid to die? Oh yes, he was afraid to die. So why did he want to condemn himself to death right now? It would be better if he returns home, to his family. Let him say that they also prepare a portion for Zhao. And this bastard should have been left to the man himself. He had to remember his words. As long as he, Zhao Kongchen, is alive, there is no way he will harm Lin Qiai's family. The guy hit the barrier as hard as he could. When it was not possible to break it from the shoulder, he tried to do it from the foot, but nothing came of it either. Yes, Zhao was right. The guy did not want to die, but he was indebted to this man. Did he want to be this guy's hero? Did he want him to let him die like this? Fuck too. Didn't he say that they should cook for him too? He wants noodles? Huh. But for that, he had to let him in. Together they will cherish this bastard, and then they will return home and Kai will treat him to an unforgettable dinner. Zhao was sitting against the wall of the barrier, just on the other side of the guy who was still trying to break the barrier. He didn't even have to try. His efforts were in vain. The guy can't even break through the annular airspace. If he can't deal with such a simple thing, how does he think he's strong enough to take on the Ghost King? If he so wanted to enter, then he had only one opportunity to do so, to wait until Zhao died. The guy waved in anger, his eyes turned yellow again. All of a sudden, everything was gone. There was only a road sign that no one needed. Nearby, somewhere, some kind of squeak was heard. Water washed over Qiai's face and also rolled down the sign in large streams. Zhao Kongchen no longer heard any sounds of the guy's presence. Gone. That's right, good kid. He had to stay at home and eat to satiety. The man picked up his medallion. He left a message on his behalf to the entire Night Watch. When he pressed the thing in a certain place, a small blade came out. Grimacing, he pricked himself in the neck with it. He used the coat of arms. His eyes glowed red. How long had he been waiting for this? The man removed the medallion from his neck and stood in a combat stance with a sword. Forbidden Ruin, Shimmering Moon. Zhao pointed his weapon straight at the monster. When there was already magic everywhere around the man, 2 more creatures appeared. They watched it closely, and as soon as the ghostly king even started to attack, Zhao immediately cut off his limb with one stroke of the blade. The monster fell back. PFF. Ha ha ha, he knew it. He, Zhao Kongchen, is a fucking genius. The loss of the Ghostface King's leg didn't upset him much, so he immediately roared again and pulled the man's hand. The man himself, when he noticed that the monster was ready to resist, hit the ground with his weapon, creating a huge force wave, which crushed the monster back. After that, without a moment's hesitation, Zhao jumped up and put on his back something so much larger that it was several times the size of Zhao himself. The fragments flew mostly at the monster, and the monster's arm, which was stretched out, as it was covered, was severely injured from sharp stones and cut almost in half. The monster roared in panic. Zhao grinned triumphantly, but the next moment he clutched his heart, clearing his throat. Time was running out. He needed to deal with the ghostly king as quickly as possible. The monster howled. The man stood up and ran towards the monster, telling him to prepare for death. Forbidden Ruin, Shimmering Moon. The monster also rushed towards the enemy. They soon met in battle. Drops of blood flew around the monster. Zhao frowned. The illusory king thrust his fist forward. While he was swinging, magic had time to appear around him. The monster hit so hard that it knocked all the air out of the man so that he flew head over heels farther and farther from the enemy. When Zhao finally landed, the magic that surrounded the monster's extended fist hitherto took effect. All the places where there was magic were cut. HMPH, now everything was fair. Now they both have only one arm left. The man continued to cough regularly. Shit, he didn't feel pain anymore. He wasn't dead yet. He could still use the Forbidden Ruin, so he had to fight. The illusory king was still alive, so he had no right to die. He couldn't fall on his face. Suddenly, there was a light behind him. Someone got into the territory protected by magic. How did he get in? Kai explained that he glared at the pillar, and it opened on its own. He was lucky that with the onset of darkness, his skill Starry Night Dancer activated itself, just in time. It was only then that his Seraphim divine power was able to break through the annular airspace. Although he wasted some effort, he got inside. But anyway, he came there to help Zhao. The man himself was surprised by this. He put the sword to the guy's neck and took him behind him. Kai is not nonsense, but if he came, then he would be better off holding on to the back of the man. But the guy himself did not understand this, because he could help. As soon as the guy looked at the body of the fighter, he was horrified. Thanks to his new abilities, he could see all the wounds on Zhao's body like an X-ray. These injuries. But the man just ignored him. He should have attacked the Ghost King again. Now, he had to make his final cut. After that, Lin Kai would not be able to help him in any way. A modest man's tear rolled down the guy's face. He didn't even try to brush it off. If the youth respected him, Zhao asked him to take care of his sword. He only had time to say that this sword was very beautiful, but it was time to attack again. The monster, without an arm and with a severed foot, rushed at Zhao. The same one again used the Forbidden Ruin, Shimmering Moon, and cut off the head of the Ghostface King. She fell to the ground with a crash next to her body. Zhao Kongshan himself also fell to the ground, perhaps from fatigue, or maybe from the fact that his body was gradually dying. Kai, seeing this picture, was confused for a second, but when he came to his senses, he was already kneeling next to the man. He drew attention to his body, to the fact that he was dying. But Zhao knew this and believed that everything was in order. But the man himself did not regret anything. After all, his dream came true. He felt the full power of owning a forbidden ruin, which he never had. He did this, even standing over the inevitable abyss, stained the sky with the blood of the enemy. A man who still hasn't gotten up off the ground. He did not care about rain or fatigue. He wanted to smoke, so he lit a cigarette, putting a cigarette between his teeth. He smiled blissfully. He asked Kai if he had seen. So, he took that bastard in one fell swoop. Damn it, the Ghost King next. The captain who was standing over Zhao cannot be defeated. At this point, he killed him with one blow. Kai replied that he saw everything. After such a major achievement, if he manages to survive, of course, he will definitely become the leader of the vanguard of the TH squad. Of course he will. It definitely had to happen. The guy called Zhao, and then again. He reiterated that he hadn't become a squad leader yet, so he didn't have the right to die. But the man said nothing to these words. He asked if his sword was beautiful, and if Kai liked his skills. Tears were rolling down the boy's face one by one. Yes, his sword was beautiful, just amazing. And his skills were amazing. The guy wanted to be just like Zhao. The cigarette fell out of his hand. The man's eyes closed. He no longer answered, and he himself no longer spoke. He was dead. From the skull of the ghostly king, which lay nearby, some sounds were heard. And then something began to crawl out of it with accompanying blood. It looked like a big weird spider. He sat on the skull and began to watch the guy. Kai himself continued to speak with Zhao. He said the man was wrong. The guy was never afraid of death. For as long as he could remember, a blind child imprisoned in a psychiatric hospital, would such a person be afraid of death? He recalled how he lay in his room on the floor, illuminated only by the faint streaks of light from the moon that came through the barred window. He lay curled up on the floor, clutching a piece of glass in his hand. Every time after dark, he tried to end his life. Many times. But the light of hope saved him, again and again. And this light that saved him is his family. The guy was indebted to Zhao for the coffin of life. His fate was in the hands of a man. He protected him, saved his world. But what could he do for him? The man's hand was still on the locket. Kai covered that hand with his own. How can he pay Zhao? Behind the guy was a monster that a few minutes ago seemed unquestioningly killed. Now he stood there as if nothing had happened. Only now, instead of his severed limbs, something else has grown. The guy, feeling someone behind him, grabbed his sword and turned into a hedgehog creature. Kai's eyes glowed with golden light at this time. The monster, in the middle of the sternum of which the same spider was sitting, hissed angrily. Kai, on the other hand, used the Starry Night Dancer, and many beams of golden light swirled around him. The guy swung right at the place where the spider climbed. He had a disgusting face. The guy hit, but it did not bring much harm to the monster. Damn, do they have a big difference in realms. If he couldn't kill him with one blow, he would cut him dozens, hundreds of times. And the guy fulfilled this whole promise, hitting again and again non-stop. The magic light, sensing the boy's wishes, also hit the monster in the face. Finally, she started to crack. But the guy decided to cut until the soul of the ghostly king goes to the next world. And finally it was crushed into small pieces. He was dead. The monster's dead body began to topple back. Kai pulled his sword out of him with a shout. As soon as he did this, the body of the monster lit up. Gradually, all of his flesh began to disappear, leaving only bare bones. Pulling the sword from the bone, the guy moved away from the body. The light went out, the flame died down. It was still raining outside. Damn, Lin Kai almost died. His physical and spiritual powers were at their limit. The boy looked back at the man's body. If Zhao Kongchen had not exhausted the ghostly king in the previous battle, the guy would not have had a chance against this Hulk. The boy took the man's hand in his. The guy felt guilty only before 3 people in his life: an aunt who worked for 10 years for him, a cousin whom he humiliated for the same 10 years. The guy put Zhao on his shoulder. He had to be taken somewhere far away from this haunted place. The third person that Kai felt guilty about was him, Buddy. Zhao protected the boy's family at the cost of his own life. He saved his entire world in exchange for his life. Now, in order to pay him, he would defend the world that was dear to him for 10 years, for which Zhao fought, for their planet. The squad that was supposed to come to help Zhao with the Phantom King only arrived at that moment. Seeing that the man was being dragged, they were glad that he was found, but as soon as they approached, they were overtaken by horror. Tears rolled down the boy's face, but he found the strength to report that he, Junior Lin Kai, had brought the general, the leader of the squad, Zhao Kongchen, in the appropriate order. The name of Zhao Kongchen resounded over the old city. At Kai's home, his family was still sitting at the table. Aunt sighed sadly, no longer touching the food. The younger brother asked his mother to eat, but she still couldn't. The boy's brother just took it and ran away right during the meal. Why hasn't he returned yet? Nothing happened to him, did it? But the boy reassured his mother she could not worry, everything would be all right with her brother. He's already an adult, right? The boy bet that Kai created his own business. The woman cheered up a little at these words. She hoped that the guy was all right. And yes, he has grown up. The streets of the city were quiet and calm, an ordinary day like any other. Kai was sitting on the sofa in the room. A man was sitting opposite him at the table, and Hong Ying was leaning on the back of the sofa. The guy was asked if he was the young man that old Zhao, Seraph Agent Lin Kai, was looking for. Yes, it was him, that's right. But in the room, besides them on the floor, people from the detachment were sitting near the table. Kai had already made it very clear that Zhao Kongchen opened the annular airspace, and until the very end, he fought the ghostly king alone. He died, but at the same time he took the ghostly king to the grave. But Wu Xiangnan, deputy captain of the 136th Night Watch Squad in Kangnan City, still had some question. For example, how then did Lin Kai manage to get inside the annular airspace? The guy explained that he looked at him with a fierce look and it let him in. When Kimo was very impressed, he asked the guy to describe the battle in more detail. How exactly did Zhao Kongchen kill the Ghost King? But Lin Kai was not difficult to tell. Zhao swung his sword, carving a crescent moon in the air, and thus cut off the head of the ghostly king. Hong An asked again. Crescent, Capital got up from his desk. Yes, it was a twinkling moon. Old Zhao used the power of ghosts and spirits to activate his own forbidden ruin. Sequence 083, Shimmering Moon. Using this forbidden ruin is a very risky business. The girl got sad. Who would have thought that Uncle Zhao would awaken the forbidden ruin at such a desperate moment? It seemed to the captain that even after awakening the forbidden ruin, Zhao himself could not believe it. Everyone remembered how he told what he would do if he had a forbidden ruin. He would be so proud of her, as his only and beloved child, would appreciate and idolize. The second girl wiped away her tears. The masked young man furrowed his brows. Wu Xiangnan crumpled some paper in his hand. Everyone thought about the same thing, about the death of one of the best fighters, Zhao Kongchen. Okay, they won't stand around like fools. Everyone should have introduced themselves. The man with the leaf in his hand introduced himself as Wu Xiangnan, and he was the deputy captain of the 136th Night Watch Squad in Kangnan City. The guy behind him is the squad leader Chen Mui. The girl standing by the sofa is the vanguard of the 136th Night's Watch, Hong An. The guy who was deeply interested in Kai's history is the vanguard of the 136th Night Watch, Hong Ying's assistant, Wen Kimo. The second girl who is still unsuccessfully trying to stop her tears is Zai Zionan, a military doctor, and she was also in charge of combat training. The masked guy was in charge of long-range combat support, Lin Xuan. Once everyone introduced themselves, Wu Xiangnan continued, that was not all. Burn marks were found on the face of the ghostly king's corpse, the origin of which they never figured out. But Wu Xiangnan was killed. The captain thought that the questions about Zhao Kongchen had been settled. He put a chair in front of where the guy was sitting. It's time to talk directly about Lin Kai. He was first asked about why he wanted to join the Night Watch, but he only wanted to pay Zhao Kongchen for everything he did for the guy. Before Kai died, he made a promise to the man. He will join the Night Watch for exactly 10 years. Exactly 10 years later he will leave. But the deputy captain believed that the guy apparently did not understand something. The Night Watchman was not some sort of community volunteer. As soon as someone joins them, he will no longer be able to leave them. Everyone is with them to the end. And what this guy said about leaving now. It depended only on his own abilities. But Kai did not lose his head. He offered another option. And how do they know that if in 10 years he does not have enough strength to leave, then this will only be his problem? The captain smiled. Good. In this case, he will immediately register his application for membership. Training will begin 1 month after the application is accepted. The Night Watch is a paramilitary organization. Before newcomers officially join them, they must take part in the training camp exercises. There they learn martial arts, firearms, tactics, forbidden ruins, and more. Until training begins, Kai will only be considered a temporary member of the Night Watch, count as a trainee. But that was exactly what the guy wanted. By the way, they do not pay for trainees' accommodation and meals. Don't pay. And where do they offer the guy to live for a whole month? Hong touched his shoulder. He could not be worried, because the girl offered him to overturn with her. She had a big house. There would be plenty of space for two. The girl told Brother Ki not to worry. He was almost a member of their squad already, so Sis would take care of him. At this, the guy thanked Hong and sister somewhat embarrassedly. When Kimo, noticing the boy's slight embarrassment, told Hong Ying not to scare the rookie like that, to which the girl replied that it was so dishonest. The guy did not pay attention to this and offered to show everything to the new one himself. As they walked down the hallway, the guy turned to Ki with a very strange request. He took the guy by the shoulders and continued. Could he go live with him at Hong Ying's house? He had dreamed of living with her for a long time. The new one was stalled. He could not say anything, except for a drawn-out "E." Ha ha ha, he was just joking. Ki could not be so nervous. He just wanted to say that if Ling Ki has questions, let him ask them now. But when Kimo at first seemed to be a very serious person, then, the guy decided to think for a while. And why are there only 6 of them? Wow, he caught everything on the fly. He was so quick to notice such insignificant details, before he came to them personally. He thought that the Night Watch was some kind of big organization, that they had tanks, planes parked at a forbidden military base. But he was wrong. The Night Watch did not belong to the army. He thought they were a militarized and rule-governed organization. Yes, this is not bad, but there is one huge drawback in such bulkiness. The guys went out of some room to the roof. Lack of mobility. When Kimo decided to give an example. Right now, a mythical creature has appeared, say, in the city of Kangna. After local confirmation, a message about this is sent to the military base, to the general headquarters, and there they should already figure out who to send to this mission. It takes at least 2 days to prepare for this mission. And then Kai already began to reason himself. And during this time, many people can die. Exactly. Therefore, the best solution for their organization was to deploy several Night Watch detachments in each city. When traces of mythical creatures are found in one of the cities, the team stationed in it directly reacts and deals with them. Their 136th detachment is stationed in the city of Kangna. Then it was now clear why they had such a clear division of labor in the detachment. Everyone is responsible for what he is really strong in. That's right, from combat support to the vanguard. Each team member has their own strengths. They add up and in total you get the perfect combat squad. And if the deployed team does not cope, then it will immediately send a message and reinforcements will arrive in the city, a special forces detachment. In addition to the detachments stationed in each city, there are 4 special forces units throughout the country. When a situation arises that the local Night Watch squad cannot handle, they call for support. But all members of the Night's Watch have 5 human ceilings. Human ceilings. Yes, and they are called weapons, cavalry, body, heaven, teacher. The captain smiled. Good. In this case, he will immediately register his application for membership. Training will begin 1 month after the application is accepted. The Night Watch is a paramilitary organization. Before newcomers officially join them, they must take part in the training camp exercises. There they learn martial arts, firearms, tactics, forbidden ruins, and more. Until training begins, Kai will only be considered a temporary member of the Night Watch, count as a trainee. But that was exactly what the guy wanted. By the way, they do not pay for trainees' accommodation and meals. Don't pay. And where do they offer the guy to live for a whole month? Hong touched his shoulder. He could not be worried, because the girl offered him to overturn with her. She had a big house. There would be plenty of space for 2. The girl told Brother Ki not to worry. He was almost a member of their squad already, so Sis would take care of him. At this, the guy thanked Hong and sister somewhat embarrassedly. When Kimo, noticing the boy's slight embarrassment, told Hong Ying not to scare the rookie like that, to which the girl replied that it was so dishonest. The guy did not pay attention to this and offered to show everything to the new one himself. As they walked down the hallway, the guy turned to Ki with a very strange request. He took the guy by the shoulders and continued. Could he go live with him at Hong Ying's house? He had dreamed of living with her for a long time. The new one was stalled. He could not say anything, except for a drawn-out "E." Ha ha ha, he was just joking. Ki could not be so nervous. He just wanted to say that if Ling Ki has questions, let him ask them now. But when Chemo at first seemed to be a very serious person. Then, the guy decided to think for a while. Then why are there only 6 of them? Wow, he caught everything on the fly. He was so quick to notice such insignificant details before he came to them personally. He thought that the Night Watch was some kind of big organization, that they had tanks, planes parked at a forbidden military base. But he was wrong. The Night Watch did not belong to the army. He thought they were a militarized and rule-governed organization. Yes, this is not bad, but there is one huge drawback in such bulkiness. The guys went out of some room to the roof. Lack of mobility. When Chemo decided to give an example. Right now, a mythical creature has appeared, say, in the city of Kangnan. After local confirmation, a message about this is sent to the military base, to the general headquarters, and there they should already figure out who to send to this mission. It takes at least 2 days to prepare for this mission. And then Kai already began to reason himself. And during this time, many people can die. Exactly. Therefore, the best solution for their organization was to deploy several Night Watch detachments in each city. When traces of mythical creatures are found in one of the cities, the team stationed in it directly reacts and deals with them. Their 136th detachment is stationed in the city of Kangnan. Then it was now clear why they had such a clear division of labor in the detachment. Everyone is responsible for what he is really strong in. That's right, from combat support to the vanguard. Each team member has their own strengths. They add up and in total you get the perfect combat squad. And if the deployed team does not cope, then it will immediately send a message and reinforcements will arrive in the city, a special forces detachment. In addition to the detachments stationed in each city, there are 4 special forces units throughout the country. When a situation arises that the local Night Watch squad cannot handle, they call for support. But all members of the Night's Watch have 5 human ceilings. Human ceilings. Yes, and they are called weapons, cavalry, body, heaven, teacher. The woman was holding a paper in her hands, on which was written attributed, joining the army. But why? Why would her nephew decide to join the army himself? He didn't tell her about it. But Kiai's cousin said that the brother had already mentioned it once. Is it? Yes, when they were alone, he said that his main dream was to join the army. But due to the fact that he completely lost sight, he refused it. But it's too unexpected. He just got his sight, and he's like that right away. What if he gets it all back? The men who were seated at the table replied that they had done a detailed examination of Lin Kiai's eyes, so there was nothing to worry about. There will be no more problems. It was a huge relief. Chen Muai pushed a stack of red bills across the table. He said it was Lin Kiai's subsidies to join the army. She had to accept the money. But the woman began to worry about the fact that there, in her opinion, was too much. She was right. But when Chemo was explaining that a new policy had recently been put in place to improve the welfare of the soldiers, so Lin Kai was also on this list and would be entitled to more special subsidies. Special subsidies? Is he involved in something dangerous? Ms. Wang Feng began to worry even more. Where was his military base? Far from their home. It's cold there. Was he really safe? Maybe he's not used to the military. How long will it take? Could she call Lin Kai? Yes, yes, and yes. The men would continue to answer all the questions that the woman was interested in, but they already had to go. At the entrance, Kai Yu was already waiting for the men. When Chemo said how exhausted I was from talking to Ms. Wang Feng, stronger than doing the job. To this, Captain Chen Muai replied that she immediately believed everything and took the money. Lin Kai thought it was wonderful, but it was his annual salary, which he asked for in advance. Was he really sure that it was worth giving her every single yuan? But the guy was confident in his actions. Yes, and he himself put aside money for a while. The accumulated amount should be enough for him for a year. If so, then the captain was calm, getting ready to go about his business. He patted the guy on the shoulder and told him to come to the office for dinner. But aren't accommodation and meals included in the price? The men unanimously replied that accommodation and meals are not included in the price. But this applies to dishes that they cook themselves. Lin Kai rubbed the spot above his lip. As soon as Chen Mui and Wen Chemo got into the car and left, Kiai's phone rang. It was an aunt, and the guy immediately answered that it was him. She asked him why he didn't tell her that he was going to be a soldier. She wouldn't stop him, and he knew it. So why didn't you just warn? The guy smiled sadly. He replied to his aunt that he was sincerely sorry that he was wrong. The very territory of the psychiatric hospital included not only that huge castle. There were small forests, paths between them, even something like playgrounds. On one of these sites with cleared land and mowed grass there was a swing. Nukta was swinging on this swing. She flew either forward or backward. Sometimes her legs flew close to the grass, but did not touch it. It was impossible to say that this brings some pleasure to the goddess, but there was still nothing to do. When she once again kicked off the ground with her foot and flew, she walked strongly in her back, allowing her to see what was behind her before. Yes, everything was upside down, but she saw the one who approached the swing. Ah, it was him. It came to see her. Nukta still considered the guy her child. And now it's time to take the medicine. She should have remembered by now that as soon as she finished taking her medication, all her children would return. The woman popped the right pills into her mouth and chewed them. Kai, on the other hand, sat down on a nearby swing, stretched out his legs and lowered his head, exhaling noisily. Even the goddess of the night noticed that something seemed to be bothering him. She handed him a cup of water. The guy only confirmed her guesses. Then she decided to give him a present. Present? Nukta threw her hand, clenched into a fist, forward. Yes, she will give him her bracelet. If he wears it, the goddess will always be by his side. But looking down at her wrist, she froze in bewilderment. There was no bracelet. She turned her head in all directions. Her bracelet. Where is her bracelet? Oh, she remembered. She lost her bracelet. Lost. What god won it from her? Kai already reached for his encyclopedia of myths, but Nukta answered, no, it was not a god. She was just like the guy himself. So she meant that there was someone else there before him, and this someone took her bracelet. Could it be that Kai is not the only visitor to this psychiatric hospital? Were there other people there 5 years ago? Did Nukta remember what she looked like? But the goddess remembered. She remembered a girl of about 12 or 13, with long black hair, very beautiful. The woman saw a certain pattern in this. How exactly did she win the bracelet from her? Was it some kind of dispute? Nukta explained that the girl said she wanted to try her luck, and if she lost, she would give the goddess her child. And if the goddess herself loses, then she gives her her bracelet. A little girl defeated a powerful goddess who created the whole world. Did she remember anything about her, maybe even her name? Yes, like Jai. After talking with the goddess Kai, Yo decided to block everything that was possible in the psychiatric hospital. After that girl was there, there must have been some clues left. Where the hell can he find it? Here it is. There was a piece of paper taped under the table. The guy pulled it off the table and unfolded it. It was some kind of letter. Disgusting handwriting, but the content was still clear. To someone, I do not know who you are, but I am already sure that you are the true owner of this place. Please don't laugh at my handwriting while reading this letter. I'm still a child after all. I'm sorry for delaying the transfer of the mental hospital to you. The true owner, I'm really sorry. And I borrowed something from your patient. But don't worry, someday I will definitely return this thing back. I also wanted to say that there is an important place downstairs, under this mental hospital. Be sure to check it out. Well, bye-bye, stranger. When I grow up, I will definitely come back. We will definitely meet, because you are my hope to return home. Of course, in this psychiatric hospital, of course, there are many more secrets hidden in this psychiatric hospital. Under the rugs in the same office, the guy found a hatch in the floor. Throwing it back, he found a ladder there and, without thinking twice, went down there. Having descended to the end of the stairs, he realized that there was a cage, but all the cells were empty, just an abandoned cell. Looking into another cell behind bars, the guy opened his eyes in surprise. There was a monster sitting on a stone behind bars. He didn't do anything, just humbly waited. It was the Ghost King. Seeing the one who approached the cell, the monster rushed to the bars and put its paw through the bars, hoping to get Linki. But it didn't work out, because the guy deftly dodged. The guy was already thinking about what the hell the ghostly king forgot there, but a sign with a message appeared on the grate. You have the power to determine the fate of the souls of the mythical creatures you kill, like this ghostly king. Option 1, directly destroy his soul and completely erase him from this world. Option 2, make him fear you. When the fear value reaches 60, you will be able to hire him as an assistant in your hospital. He will care for the patients and ensure their protection. Current fear value, 1. That's it. It seems that in addition to the mysterious patients, this mental hospital has the ability to capture other people's souls. As long as the mythical creatures he killed are kept there, they can be accepted as helpers in the hospital. Then the mythical creatures that are mentioned there, could there be gods in their place? If Kai killed a true god, could he make him work for him? The Ghostface King roared again, but the guy just looked at him coldly. Hey, did he even understand what situation he was in at the time? He was very strong, so choosing him as your assistant would be a good idea, except that he was not welcome there. At the Lin Kiai hospital, the guy touched the creature. With just a touch of his hand, he destroyed it. Only the paw that the monster put through the bars of the cage remained to dissolve behind the back of the guy climbing the stairs. The next day, the guy went to headquarters. As soon as he entered, a fragment of some conversation reached his ears. Some woman told that she saw a monster. Kai became very interested, even though he had mixed feelings when he heard these phrases. He went to the sound. In response, she was asked if it was some kind of mythical creature. Yes, the woman who said this was afraid that she would now tell, but no one would believe her. But she had nothing to worry about. She was even given a promise that they would believe in everything she just did not say. The guy had already reached the right door and looked out from behind it, began to observe what was happening. It turned out that it was Hong and talking to some old woman too. Just at that moment, the woman decided to tell everything that worried her. The case concerned her husband. All the time that they were together, the woman was sure of him. The girl asked her not to worry and to speak more slowly. The old woman continued. Recently they walked around the city. He held her hand, they talked, everything was fine. And the week before, he hadn't filed any ghosts. Hongin was supported by her grandmother, saying that everything was fine and that she could continue her story. The woman squeezed the girl's hands tightly. She began to tell that this time when they were walking, this seductress jumped out from around the corner, at least with a fourth breast size, and he fell for her boobs. Kiai, who was still standing at the door, was at a loss and somehow even embarrassed. The woman ended her story there. Leaning on Wen Kimo, she stood up and walked towards the exit. Hongin said after her that this woman could not worry anymore, because their company would take care of everything. Wen Kimo walked her to the street and wished her goodbye. When this grandmother left, Kai could calmly enter the room without disturbing anyone and find out everything that interested him. What was that now? But Hongin considered it a regular job. But when Kimo, who had already returned, decided to explain everything. Kai is a rookie, so you probably don't know, but in Kangnan City, there are only about 5 or 6 real mystery incidents a year. On ordinary days, they help ordinary citizens deal with their daily problems. So this way it was possible not only to find an occupation that would be to your liking, but also to earn extra money on any garbage. And if you're lucky, someday you'll stumble upon the same mystical incident. Well, that's great. So they were usually investigating old man and old lady extramarital affairs. For the most part, yes. Now the guy was all clear, he exhaled noisily. By the way, the captain asked Kiai to visit him at the martial arts training ground. The boy furrowed his brows slightly. Fine. The guy went down the stairs and opened the door. In the training room sat cross-legged and put his fists on his knees, the captain. As soon as Kiai entered, he opened his eyes and asked if he had come. The answer, of course, was consent. Chen Muai threw a sword at the guy, to which he, although confused, caught the weapon with one hand. He will not be given a cloak, nor a sword, nor a coat of arms. But this is until he enters full training. At first, he could use the sword that the captain threw. Not much after pulling it out of its scabbard, Kiai saw the scratched owner's name. This is Lao Zhao's sword. The guy was one of those few who liked him, and the captain thought that Zhao would like Lin Kiai to get his sword. There was still more than a month left before the start of the training camp. During this time, the captain decided to teach Kiai something. But this is so that later you don't have to blush for him. From now on, every morning he would teach the boy how to use a sword, and in the afternoon he would study the forbidden ruins with Wen, and in the evening, the remaining weapons with Len Luan. Now it was time to start the first session, but they had real swords. But it didn't matter what they would train with. Then Kiai will try to be more careful. The guy pulled his sword from its scabbard, jumped towards the captain and swung the sword over his head. But the guy was quickly thrown back into the boxes. He landed in them with a loud sound. The captain walked over to him, pointed his baton at him, and told him to get up to try again. And then he repeated it again. The guy grinned and found his sword in his hand. When Kimo, who walked past the door that led to the training hall, was surprised. From behind the doors there were shouts, noisy exits, and phrases that said that it was necessary to start another run. The hand, completely covered with abrasions and bruises, clenched nervously. On a bench nearby lay an open first aid kit, from which bandages and peroxide had been pulled out. Stripped to the waist, Kiai tried to sit still while Wen Kimo bandaged his arm. Wen Kimo thought that this guy seemed to have talent. During his first training, the captain beat him like a helpless baby. The captain's skills are terrifying. His swings are both too fast and heavy at the same time. But it was the most ordinary training. The guy was completely gone. He recalled how he raised his sword over his head, how he tried to defend himself against Chen Muai. So why did the captain beat Lin Kiai so hard? Such hard hits. He did not feel an ounce of his mercy. Yes, now the only one who could at least minimally withstand the captain was Hong Ying. The guy became interested in how Zhao Kongchen coped. Zhao Kongchen. He was on the same level as the captain. Oh, Kiai thought so. The binding was completed. Small abrasions all over the guy's body should have passed when he had a good night's sleep. And tomorrow he will come intact, and they will beat him again. When Kimo lightly patted the boy on the shoulder. But even from this, the newcomer in their squad felt pain and narrowed his eyes. The temporary doctor of the guy at that time took out something from the pocket of his jacket. It was a small book. The gym class was over. It was time to move on to discussing his forbidden ruin. How advanced was his mortal god realm? Kai raised his index finger up. In short, he felt literally everything within a radius of 20 meters. Here's how. At this time, Hongin walked past them. She didn't come up to them, didn't say anything to them, she just walked by. Both boys turned their heads and looked after the girl. He was especially obsessed with her butt. When the girl moved away from them at a sufficiently large distance, the guys synchronously turned their heads towards each other. They didn't say anything else, only Kai said they were white. When Kimo grinned at this and gave his interlocutor a thumbs up, which was pointing up, the boys stood up and shook hands with a loud bang. When the guy put on the t-shirt, when Kimo decided to start explaining what exactly the Forbidden Ruin was, it was the so-called division of the danger level of people. The higher the sequence, the more dangerous the person. The guy was holding a book called Forbidden Ruins sequence in his hand. Anything greater than or equal to 600 was classified as harmless ruin. It is of no use. With its help you can kill a maximum of a fly. The sequence from 400 to 599 is defined as low-risk Forbidden Ruin. At this level, you can kill someone, but more often than not, it was only severe injuries. From 200 to 399, Forbidden Ruins can be called dangerous. They pose a large-scale threat to human society, and with the help of them you can already fight with mythical creatures. High-risk Forbidden Ruins is sequence 90 to 199. Very high combat effectiveness. The probability is 1 in a million. Their captain was just one of those. As for Forbidden Ruins extra high risk, these are all that were in the range from 1 to 89. This tier has not only large-scale lethality, but also incredible special abilities. The people with these Forbidden Ruins had gone beyond the human category. They alone can destroy the city. If Shao Kongshan had awakened the Forbidden Ruin 083, the Twinkling Moon, then perhaps he would have become a general. When Kimo turned the page and closed his book, Lin Kai Forbidden Ruin Mortal God Realm, sequence 003. What? But he didn't need to rejoice ahead of time. 003 is the Burning Angel Forbidden Ruin, not Kai. He was a beginner and didn't really know anything, so such a fashionable ruin in his hands is good for nothing. That is, when Kimo wanted to say that the boy had not completely mastered the Forbidden Ruin, but Kai's current abilities were focused on perception and divination. Even though he could use some of that enormous power of the Flaming Angel, the power of his Forbidden Ruin was much greater than what he had at that moment. In other words, either the Flaming Angel gave him only a small fraction of all his power, either Kai had other abilities available to him, he just couldn't feel them and master them. And this part of his training was necessary so that he gradually began to use all the possibilities of his body. The guys entered a room, but the strangest thing that could be in this room is a lot of pistols placed on all sides. There were 39,000 miniature air pistols, and they could fire 39,000 rubber bullets per second. At that time, Kai was required to use his perception and dynamic vision to avoid all those bullets. When Kimo took out a tablet and began to press something there, he took into account that Kai was in a low realm, so they would start with 50 bullets per second. Wait, but why did the guy have such an ominous feeling? Fuck, are his feet stuck to the ground or what? The guy tried to lift his legs off the floor, but it didn't do much good. And what should he do now? Why does he have thoughts that he should not have been there at all? When Kimo explained that danger would always haunt him, where there is danger, there is also fear. In any real fight, there is no place where he would have to fight, and he would not feel fear at all. The beep sounded and it was time to start training. In the next moment, Kai saw the sight of the gun point straight at him. He called out to stop, but when there was no response, no action, he called out to go. Only now this did not cancel the fact that he would have to dodge shots. HMPH, when Kimo was smirking. Nothing hit him, and nothing was aimed at him. Kai continued to dodge. Rubber bullets bounced off the walls. When the shooting stopped, the guy exhaled. Now he understood the meaning of this training. But he relaxed early, as another bullet flew at him. She flew past her face, so Kai glanced at her. But she still hit him, so the guy screamed. Why is he beaten at every training session? This time, when Kimo couldn't help but smile. By the time the guy left school, it was already evening. Why Yi-Fi glanced back at the school building for the last time and walked slowly. So slowly that at some point his friends called out to him. They asked why he was walking so slowly. He had to move his hooves and catch up with them. He replied that he was coming. When he caught up with the guys, he put his arm around his shoulder. Did he see a killer? Why was he acting like a lost child? He's been suspicious all day. He behaved too cautiously. It was evident from him that he was afraid of something. Where has his courage gone? Why Yi-Fi frowned. He couldn't tell them anything. What did he mean? But the guy repeated that he would not tell them anything. He didn't want to talk about it at all. Suddenly he stopped. Friends asked what was the matter this time. He brushed off the guys and said that he forgot the key. He sent his friends to go without him, saying that he would catch up with them later. Every hour it got weirder and weirder. On the way back to school, Yi-Fi stopped all the time. He stopped near the school building, stopped in the corridor. He was careful not to let anyone see him. It was clear from the guy that he was afraid of something. He walked literally on shaking legs. Entering the office where he had lessons, he touched the table. Yi-Fi looked like he was looking for something. There was a thud in the hallway. Who is coming? Peeking slightly out of the door, he saw 2 pairs of shoes. When people got closer, it became clear that this was the headmaster and math teacher. The woman told the director to come to her, but the man didn't pay much attention to it. Why did they come to class? Really? The couple opened the door to the office, but they did not go further, but stood in the doorway. Lai Yifei had already managed to hide. What did she want from a man? There was something she had wanted to say to the director for a very long time. The guy in his hiding place lay in shock. Yeah, huh? The teacher had a crush on the principal? Yes, he is under 50. He already has bald patches on the top of his head. God, what kind of taste does she have? The man asked again what the math teacher wanted to tell him. In fact, she always wanted him. The woman licked her lips. Lai Yifei peeked out from his hiding place slightly. The woman's pupils became vertical. I wanted to eat it. At this time, some kind of metamorphosis took place with the woman's head. She had large fangs, her neck lengthened. Now her head was similar to the head of a snake, only on a human body. The man screamed heart-rendingly, but it was already too late. The monster had swallowed him completely, leaving only a small pool of blood on the floor. Lai Yifei was sitting and trembling at this time under the table. He didn't know what to do next. The sky was getting darker and darker. Night has come. It was evening, but it was already quite dark. On the streets, windows in houses and advertising signs burned brightly in different colors. Kai Yi was studying with Lin Xuan at that time. The guy was holding a pistol assembly diagram in his hands. The gun is the material embodiment of human genius. For newbies like him, guns are like life insurance. Although it does not cause serious damage to high-level mythical creatures, it is more effective against low-level firearms than melee weapons. And now the guy had to show everything that he was capable of. Lin Xuan quickly glanced at the stopwatch, and then shouted at the guy to start. As soon as this signal sounded, the guy began to collect a gun. The guy tried to calm himself, calm down and disassemble every detail, then put it back together. The guy was already reloading the gun. Now it was necessary to make 3 shots in one direction. Without wasting a second, he pulled the trigger 3 times. He finished, but he didn't remove the firearm from his face yet. Kai Yi looked at the holes left by the bullets in the target. The guy asked Lin Xuan how he liked his skills. The distance from the admissible edge of the target was quite large. To put it mildly, a blind man would do better. Kai Yi smirked. Actually, not so long ago he was blind. He walked along the corridor towards the entrance, dressing in parallel. Another day of training has passed. He fought the captain again, and he beat the guy again. But training with a pistol brought him back to his tone. Even though he liked it, he didn't even have any talent in the weapons field. He would have walked like this, immersed in his thoughts, if he had not been called and told to wait. Kai turned around with a question on his face. The captain stood at the door of the room, with an apron on his body and a large cauldron, from which steam still came. Shen Mui told the guy not to stand like a glass and stomp for dinner. He instantly came to his senses, entered the room and sat down at the table. Wu Xiangnan argued with Hong Ying over who took the first piece of meat. Everyone, of course, believed that he was the first, but the girl was already boiling, because this piece of meat should be hers. Everyone was having a pretty active meal. Only Kai acted either modestly or just strangely. The captain, who drew attention to this, told him that it was already 7 o'clock in the evening, supper time. Even if he was not used to eating at this time, he should have eaten at least stewed vegetables. Uncle Chen did his best. Zai Zionan told him that he was eccentric. Wu Xiangnan continued to argue with the avant-garde for a piece of meat. Hong'an was already screaming that she was ready to lose her arm just to get this piece. The argument went on and on. At some point, the dispute ended. After a few minutes of silence, Lin Xuan was told not to dare to draw weapons at the table next time. Once in his temporary home, Kai collapsed on the bed exhaustedly and exhaled. Finally, this day passed, lay down on the bed and received such satisfaction. The guy remembered the words of the captain, who he said that day in training. Don't hold on to the sword so hard. Otherwise, he will not have time to regroup and he will not be able to quickly switch from attack to defense. Don't hold on to the sword so hard. Ha! The boy got out of bed and took out his sword. Okay, he'll try again.